Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call podcast. I am Melissa Deely, your podcast host. And before we dive into today's episode and a whole new theme for the month of June 2024, I just want to share a beautiful testimonial that I received recently from a client of mine. And Dawn Tedesco from Langley, BC says, Melissa Deely is the real deal. She is an incredible healer, and she is the only one that you want on your side to help you unlock the healer within yourself. She will walk confidently with you down the path as she has already walked down it herself. She not only knows what she is doing, she is living proof of that, but she uplevels and upgrades her skills continuously through many different modalities to ensure that her tool belt is better equipped than any other healer I have met. Not only is she the friendly toxin slayer, she also teaches you that you are in control, you are powerful, and you will prevail. A better doctor, teacher, and human being I have not met. Thanking you, Melissa, so sincerely. You have helped me change my life and regain my control. Thank you, Dawn, so much for taking the time to share that testimonial. It is truly an honor to guide my clients on their healing journey and through the different training programs that I teach and being able to witness people's transformation through these programs. And that ties in beautifully with what I want to talk about today and share with you. This month, June, we are talking about toxins. And toxins don't come in only one form. There can be the chemical toxins, there can be toxic thoughts, toxic emotions, heavy metal toxins. There's so many forms that toxins come in, and they negatively impact our health. And that's why I call myself the friendly toxin slayer, because I help people to detox their physical body. And then we detox the stuffed down emotions that have been stuffed down in the body, sometimes for years, decades, causing dis-ease later in life, as well as the mental toxins, all of those unconscious conversations we have with ourselves about not being good enough, being powerless, being unlovable, etc., etc., etc. Those limiting beliefs, I call them mental toxins. And then spiritual toxicity as well. And to me, that's just being out of alignment with who you are truly meant to be at this time on earth. Are you living your purpose? Are you living your purpose with passion? And when we don't have that alignment and we're not living our purpose, it's often difficult for us to find true joy and happiness in our life. And so helping people to detox that, realign themselves with who they were truly meant to be, and find that joy in their life. And so this work brings me great pleasure, and I've learned so much in the last 9 years since I've been out of the corporate world and embracing all of this knowledge out there and knowing that there is always more to learn. And we kind of jokingly say in the courses that I teach that the learning is ongoing throughout our life, just like our health journey is ongoing throughout our life. And we're not done until we're dead. And we don't want to be dead. So don't close yourself off. Keep open to curiosity. Keep open to learning of whatever it is that interests you so that you can continue to grow and thrive in your life. And let's face it, life happens. we get curveballs thrown in our way, things come up. And that's what recently happened to me. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today, because I want to share with you that it's how we respond to what life throws at us as to how we're able to move through it. And with all the tools and the training that I have, this was a true test for me in being able to apply my own tools and use them in order to come through this with ease and grace. So let me back up. In January of 2024, I was able to see a skin doctor, a dermatologist, for a mole that I had on my lower right leg. Now, this mole I've had on my lower right leg for 10 years or more, about 10 years. And in fact, in 2014, I had a dermatologist look at it, and he told me that it was called melanoma in situ. And he explained that to me as being like thick icing on top of a cake that never goes down into the cake. So he said, we'll watch it. However, it's not really anything to worry about. And the year prior, I had had melanoma removed from my elbow of my left arm. And it was a surgery. They removed it all. The oncologist said, we got it all. You're good. You're cured. Perfect textbook scenario. And when he said, you're cured, in my mind, I went, how do you know it hasn't spread throughout my body? And that's really what started me looking into detoxing and taking better care of my body, because I didn't know if it had spread or not spread. And I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't feeding my cancer cells and that I was giving my killer cells the optimal chance to be fending off any cancers. Now, I'm very fair-skinned. The first 6 years of my life, I lived in Australia. It was back in a time where we didn't have sunscreen. And so I have many photos of me taken from that young age when I was beet red. So if a dis-ease is going to show up in me, the damage to my skin was done way back then. And that's what the dermatologist explained to me, that it's really the first kind of 9 years of your life, 9 to 10 years of your life, that if you get sunburnt a lot, you have a higher risk of melanoma later in life. So I am in that higher risk category. And so I've been seeing my dermatologist every year for checkups. Well, 2 years ago, I noticed this mole was starting to change a little bit. And when I went to my appointment, I had him check it, and he said, yep, don't worry about it, it's all good. And then last year in 2023, it was changing more and it was getting kind of dark. And I thought, I don't like what this is doing. So I saw him again for my regular checkup. And he said, it's fine, don't worry about it. And then this January, I had a new dermatologist because he had retired. My previous dermatologist had retired. And this dermatologist, because she was new, she said, maybe we should just biopsy it and see. And so we did. And that biopsy came back saying that this was malignant invasive melanoma. And so as a result, I was referred to a surgeon. And remember, I've had melanoma removed before. And last time I had the appointment with the surgeon, I drove to his office. He removed it then and there. I left, and that was that. I got the pathology report and learned that they got it all within a week or so. And so it was an easy process to go through. And I didn't think this was going to be any different. And so I was referred to the surgeon, and it took a while to get through. I tried to go back to the previous surgeon, and then he only does plastic surgery now. And then I was referred to another surgeon who doesn't do melanoma cases. So then the third surgeon I got the appointment with, and all of that took a bit of time. So in very early March, I went and saw her. And in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going for the surgery today. She's going to remove it in her office, and then I'm going to drive home. However, that was not the case. So when I saw her, she sat me down to tell me that because this was malignant invasive melanoma, based on databases in Australia and in New York, it had a 9 to 12% chance of having metastasized to other parts of my body. She therefore wanted to take out my lymph nodes, 3 to 4 lymph nodes, in order to then inform my follow-up protocol after surgery. And I said, wait a minute, are we not doing surgery today? And she said, no, 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 you're just here today to learn the process. And I was like, okay, this is different. And she starts telling me about all the negative side effects of having my lymph nodes removed. And I'm listening to these going, I really like my legs. I really like my outdoor life. I really don't feel that I want to have my lymph nodes removed at this time. This is something that I need to look into and not anything that I'm agreeing to here today. And these potential negative side effects did not sound good at all. And as I share this story with you, I really want you to understand this is my story. This is me making the choices that I made for me. This is not me telling you what you should do for you by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sharing this story only because I want you to realize that we can be empowered in our health journey. And that's what I chose to be. And you can choose to be empowered in your health journey as well and to advocate for yourself. However, you need to do it the right way for you. You don't need to do what I did for me, because that isn't going to be the right way for you. We are all coming to, our health issues from different places, right? And I also share this story with you because if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, if you know me, you know that I do a lot to take care of my health. And yet things come up, those little bumps in the road, right? This melanoma had been in my leg for 10 years, since before I got into health and wellness, and it had been laying dormant for that amount of time. And I'll circle back to that in a later part of my story. My point is that I make my health a priority and things still come up, and that's okay, because then we can still address them. We can still be empowered in our health. And just because it comes up doesn't mean I should just give up. I've done all of this and I still have melanoma, so I should stop doing all of these things. No, for me, it further showed me how important it is to continue looking after my health. Because remember, when the damage was done, it was done when I was a young child. I can't go back and undo that. I can only do what I can do today to help prevent any more melanomas coming up, or if they come up, that I catch them early and that I choose to be empowered in my health and do things my way. So back to where I was in the story there was I was in the surgeon's office, and she's telling me that she needs to take out my lymph nodes. And hearing those negative side effects was putting a little bit of fear in me, going, I don't like the sound of this at all. And then she told me that even before she took out the lymph nodes, that I needed to go to another hospital, to their nuclear medicine department, and they needed to fill me with some radioactive fluid so that I would glow, so they could determine which lymph nodes, and it would be 3 to 4, that they were going to be removing. And the purpose of removing them was to determine if the cancer had spread. And then, as I said, to inform the protocol for post-surgery. So on that day, I said to her, I'm really not liking the sound of the lymph nodes here. However, I do know that I need to have the mole removed so that we can have that biopsy or the pathology afterwards to say that you got it all and the melanoma is no longer in my leg. And she told me that she highly recommended the lymph nodes be removed, and however said she would give me some information so I could go home and research it. So as I left the clinic that day, she gave me paperwork to sign off for the surgery so they could book the surgery appointment. I did not sign off on the lymph node surgery at that time. And she gave me the documentation to go home and read. And she also told me that she would be getting a plastic surgeon, and so I would have 2 surgeons during my surgery. She would be removing the lymph nodes, and the plastic surgeon would be removing the mole and then closing up that wound, because it was going to be quite a large wound. And so I felt very comfortable with having the plastic surgeon there. The previous surgeon was a plastic surgeon, and that part sounded good to me. So I'm driving home. I've got a 2-hour drive home. And of course, our mind goes to, the worst possible things, right? And I catch that and I realize, no, I'm not going to go into a place of fear. I don't need to go into a place of fear. And I don't want to, because fear triggers stress. And when we're in a stress state, our immune system is weakened. And I needed my immune system to be functioning really well at this point. And so instead, I went to, how is this happening for me? And what action steps can I take now in order to enhance this process and my healing and my immune system right now? Well, I was driving through Squamish, and my naturopathic doctor is in Squamish, so I decided to stop into her office and ask about high-dose vitamin C treatments. And she wasn't there, but I was able to talk to her receptionist. And I know that vitamin C and high-dose vitamin C is very good at killing cancer cells, because the chemical compound of vitamin C is very similar to sugar. And cancer cells have 15 times the sugar receptors of a healthy cell. So we don't want to be feeding our cancer cells with sugar. And they confuse vitamin C and think it's sugar and draw it all to them, and it kills them and it keeps all our healthy cells intact. So I thought, I'm going to do some high-dose vitamin C and help kill off some of these cancer cells that are potentially elsewhere in my body. So I stopped there and I booked in for that. And I came home and I talked to my husband about not doing the lymph node portion of the surgery, and he was in agreement with it was a bit early for considering that. I reached out to another local practitioner in Whistler who also ran IV clinics, just to find out about what options are in Whistler instead of driving to Squamish all the time. And she's a trained MD as well. So I was able to talk to her about my situation. And initially she thought that I should do the lymph node part of the surgery because you don't mess around with melanoma. And I agree, you don't mess around with it. However, I said, I'm taking it seriously. I'm just going to take another path. And I shared with her what I was doing and my intentions. And she said, you know what? I think you're right. I think do the surgery without the lymph nodes, get the pathology from that. If they don't get it all, then you can go to a plan B. However, if they get it all and you haven't had to remove your lymph nodes, that's going to be a much easier recovery for you. So that made me feel better after having that chat with her. I also reached out to an energy healer, friend of mine, to work with him to help have him energetically remove cancer cells from my body and give my body the best chance at healing. And so we had a fabulous session together. And after that session, he also worked on me in the background because, of course, energetically, he has my photo and he can continue working on me, even though we're not doing a session over the phone or via Zoom. And I reached out to another practitioner who specializes in New German medicine. And I have some training in New German medicine. In my world of NLP, we call it meta medicine. However, I wanted to talk with somebody else who could help me figure out the significant emotional events that were attached to this melanoma showing up. And remember earlier I said stuffed down emotions can trigger dis-ease of the body. And every dis-ease is triggered by a significant emotional event. So what I wanted to understand was, I knew about this melanoma for 10 years. So something triggered it 10 years ago, and then something triggered it about 2 years ago to start it changing. And I wanted to understand those emotions and those events, because once I understood those, I could then use timeline therapy, one of my own techniques, working with one of my colleagues to release that emotion from my body. And so we did. I had a great session with this lady and we figured it out. And we figured out why it lay dormant for 10 years. And that was because the trigger was in the corporate world. And soon after that trigger, I was let go from the corporate world and I was no longer having to work with that person that was the trigger in the first place. And so that's why it lay dormant for all of those years. And then I had another significant emotional event during the pandemic. Didn't we all, right? And that's what triggered this mole to start changing and the turning dark, etc. And that melanoma going down into the skin instead of just staying on the surface. And so what I was able to do is I already had it scheduled in my calendar anyway, which was perfect because we do our own monthly timeline therapy sessions as required by the board. Because whenever we're working with people, some of their stuff gets into our body and we need to be releasing that. So I had this scheduled already and was able to address these specific events to clear the emotions attached to them from my body. And that was so incredibly freeing to do that. And the other thing that I cleared was doubt. I cleared any doubt because remember I said driving home, a little bit of that fear crept in. And so there was that little bit of doubt of going my own path, advocating for myself, choosing to do things my way was the right thing, or was that making a mistake? We're so programmed that with cancer there's one way or the highway, and that includes radiation and chemotherapy, etc. And in this case, the doctor telling me we have to take out lymph nodes. And so there was a little tiny bit of doubt that was still there niggling. And so I cleared that in the timeline therapy as well. And that was really empowering for me because after that, I knew that I could stand in my power on my health journey and I could ask for things to be done the way I wanted them to be done. And I also have a lot of empathy for people who are on their cancer journey and who don't have all of the training and health knowledge that I have. I feel like our medical industry has us at the top of a luge track, and it's very quickly they're like, this is what you have to do, boom, 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 let's do it, let's get it done. And you're on this luge track going straight down and there's no exit. And there's very little room for you to be able to do your own research, ask your own questions, get second and third opinions. However, I do really want to encourage that for everybody because you need to have the knowledge. And so just asking second and third opinions just gives you a little bit more information in order to be able to make a better decision for you. And that's what I did talking to these other healers and this other MD, is that was my way of getting second opinions. And so all was good. I was doing my high dose vitamin C's. I was doing my energy healing. I changed my diet to support more cancer fighting foods and boost my immune system. And then I needed to meet with both surgeons about less than a week before my surgery. And I met with the plastic surgeon first, and I let her know that I'd made my decision that I wasn't going to have the lymph nodes removed. I just was going to have the mole removed. And so I said to her, I said, I know you can do that portion of it. You're all busy people. There's a lot of people that need you. I am perfectly comfortable with just having you in the surgery. I don't need the other surgeon there. I'm sure she could be better serving somebody else. And I said to her that I would really like to not be under general anesthesia because I was now just having a mole removed, and could I have it done under local? And she said it was too big of a surgery for local. However, I could have a nerve block if I wanted, or be under general. And I said to her, well, I would prefer a nerve block, and I would also like to use my Nucalm healing frequencies, which drop me down into theta state rather than any kind of anesthesia, to support me through the surgery process. And I would need my phone and my earbuds and an eye mask through the process, and would that be okay? And she said, absolutely, that's fine. Which was great. That really made me feel confident in being able to move forward with having the surgery the way I wanted to have the surgery. And I didn't have to be nasty about it. I was just simply able to say, this is how I'd like to do it, and give her that information, and she was completely supportive. I then had to speak to the oncological surgeon. And when I told her that I wasn't going to be having the lymph nodes removed, she said, I just have to let you know that that's not my recommended protocol. And I said, yes, I understand that. However, that is my choice. And then she said to me, okay, well then I suggest if you're not doing that, that you do ultrasound every 6 months post-surgery, so we can just make sure that we're not seeing any cancer coming back. And I thought, great, that doesn't require that I fill myself up with any radiation. And that also doesn't require any removal of body parts or key that with key functions in the body. And so I'm absolutely open to doing ultrasound every 6 months so that she can track and make sure that, there's no other melanoma happening in the body or cancer cells expanding, etc. And I also let her know about the NuCalm sound frequencies and wanting to use that during the surgery, and clarified with her that that would be okay. And she said, yes, no problem. So the following week, I head to the hospital with my husband, and I had an incredible experience. And I'm really happy to share this. And the people that worked with me, I had 9 different people support me during that day for surgery that was only 50 minutes long, which is kind of crazy. However, I really appreciate all of them. So from the nurse that checked me in to the practitioner that put an IV in my arm. I was questioning the need for, why do I need an IV if I'm not doing any anesthesia? I want this to be as least invasive as possible. So it was never actually attached to anything. He said he just needed to set it up in case of emergency, that they could quickly get something into me if that was needed. And given that my husband did actually have an anaphylactic reaction in the OR years ago, I decided, okay, fair enough, I'll let you stick the IV in my arm, not attached to anything. To the fellow that was just in charge of driving me in the hospital bed around from, my check-in area to the room where I was going to get the nerve block, etc. I was like, I could walk. He's like, no, just lie down, let me drive you. So that was kind of a fun experience. And then to the doctor that did the nerve block, which was done through ultrasound, she was lovely. And she again allowed me to use my NuCalm frequencies. She said most people get an anesthesia just to have the nerve block done. And I said, I'm just going to use my frequencies. I think I'll be fine. And I did. And she said to me, if you find it's hurting in any way, shape, or form, or you want anesthesia, just let us know. We can get that into you right away. And I tuned in to my frequencies. I could hear them talk to me when they needed me to answer a question, and they'd call me by name. I could respond. I could also vaguely hear them talking. However, I had no idea what they were saying because I was in my theta state, just chilling, enjoying the sound, the music, and not feeling any pain. So that was a really positive experience. And then after that, the anesthetist from the OR room came to talk to me and asked me, what I would like during the surgery. And I said, I don't want anything. I have my nerve block now done. I have my healing frequencies. It'll drop me into the theta state. That's all I need. He said, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. I said, why? What do people need? You have a nerve block. What else do you need? And he goes, oh no, people generally want an anesthesia in the OR as well. And I said, oh, okay, well, I prefer not to. And he said, no problem. I'll be right behind your head in the OR. If you need something, you just let me know. And I said, great, thank you. And then the OR nurse came to take me into the OR. And she was the only one that gave me a little bit of difficulty about using my phone and my earbuds and my eye mask for the frequencies. As soon as she came to my bed to wheel me away, she saw that I had them in my hand, and she snatched them and said, you can't have these in the OR. And I said, no, they've been approved. And the other doctor was still there and said, they've been approved. They're part of her anesthesia protocol. She just used them getting her nerve block. And so she's good with them. And so the nurse gave them back to me kind of grumpily. And we went into the OR. And when we got into the OR, the plastic surgeon said hi. And she said, how are you feeling? I said, I'm feeling great because I'm awake and my leg's asleep. And that's exactly how I want this to go. And they kind of laughed. And then she said, do you have anything you want to give to me to put to the side? And then the nurse grabbed my things again and said, I've been trying to take this off her. And the plastic surgeon said, no, she's allowed that. It's part of her anesthesia protocol. So the nurse had to give it back to me again. And they set me all up. And I tuned into my sounds, my earbuds. I put my eye mask on. I was lying on my side, and I was comfortable. In fact, they were putting warm blankets on me and pillows and tucking me in. I said, you guys are going to make me so comfortable, I'm never going to want to leave here. And the surgery went without a hitch. Again, I was listening to my tunes. I heard a phone ring at one point, and it was ringing for so long that I started thinking, is it my phone that's ringing? And then somebody answered. I heard the hello. I didn't hear anything more after that other than just a little bit of background noise. And then I heard a goodbye. Our brain is tuned to, we always say hello, we always say goodbye on the phone. So it could pick up that. It couldn't pick up anything else in my theta state that I was in at that point. And when the surgery was over, I thanked the anesthetist. As I was leaving the room, as I was being wheeled out, I said, I just want to thank you. And he goes, what for? I didn't do anything for you today. I said, yes, you did. You let me do this my way. And I didn't have to have anesthesia. I didn't need it. And I really appreciate that. And of course, I thanked the surgeons and everybody else that was in there. And I was taken to the discharge area. And at that point, there was another nurse, so this is the 9th person that I was dealing with, who was looking at the computer at the end of my bed, and then she looked at me with a quizzical look, and then she looked back at her computer with the same quizzical look and went, wait a minute, you didn't have any anesthesia today? And I said, no, I had a nerve block. I didn't need any anesthesia. And literally until that point, I didn't think that it was any big deal that I hadn't had anesthesia. And she said, I've never seen that before. Everybody has anesthesia just to get the nerve block. And people have anesthesia for the OR. And I just said, I didn't need it. I had my sound frequencies and dropping me into that theta healing state, and I was fine. And she goes, well, this is the easiest discharge ever because I don't have to have you sign any waivers. I don't have to give you any documentation. You can literally get dressed and leave. And so I did. She did give me, or the surgeon came and saw me quickly before I left and just gave me some heads up on some painkillers that she wanted me to be taking and staying ahead of the pain, etc., and just explain what kind of pain that I could be expecting as I went through this healing journey now. And I took the painkillers before I left the hospital because I agreed with, staying ahead of the pain. And I would say it took 2 hours to get home. And I would say the last 10 minutes of that drive on the bumpy highway was a little bit painful. Once I got into my bed, and I was on crutches at this point because I still had no feeling in my leg. And once I got into my bed and I had no pain, and I took pain medication again the following morning as instructed. And then when I was supposed to take more at lunchtime, I went, I haven't had any pain since the car ride home. I'm just not going to take it. And I didn't take any more pain medication, and I never had any more pain. I did have tingling sensations because they'd cut nerves, and so the nerves had to, reconnect, etc. So I had tingling sensation for about a month. They said that was normal for up to 2 months or so. And my wound has healed beautifully. I used my infrared healing pad on it a lot at the very beginning. I was told to elevate it for the first week a lot, and I did. I didn't go skiing. I didn't do any workouts. In fact, I didn't do any jumping on it for 4 weeks. So I followed all of the surgeon's recommendations for expediting my healing. And when I spoke to her 1 month later, I spoke with her at 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 weeks, and I have one more call with her. She said that clearly I had followed her instructions well, because the fact that I hadn't had any pain, my inflammation was down, I was able to be at this point at 4 weeks, live my life fully. She said that was because I'd followed her instructions to the T, and kudos to me for having done that. And of course, I want to heal, I want to enhance my healing, and so I did that. And she said, but not everybody does. And so I just share that because post-surgery, or when you are getting wellness plans, etc., there's always a reason behind why someone's asking you to do something. And I'm that person that always asks, why? Because when I understand the why, then that motivates me to do it, right? And so when I was having this conversation with the surgeon, she's explaining all of this to me. if she wasn't giving me the why, I was asking her the why so that I could understand it and then be able to prioritize this in my daily life as being something important enough for me to actually change my habits in order to make this happen. And that's what I did. And I am honestly so grateful for this whole experience for so many reasons. One of them is that it truly has given me the opportunity to use my own tools, to call in the network of people that I've been working with over the last 9 years and building, and to walk my talk even further than I already was. And to now be able to share that with all of you as a source of inspiration, motivation, hope, to let you know that you can be empowered in your health. You must be an advocate for yourself. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to get second opinions. And it's okay to take a little bit of time to do your own research or to reach out to people that can support you and help you on your healing journey. I find our medical system, at least in Canada, means well. However, they rush you through, and that rushing puts stress on you. And even last time around, I really felt that rushing when I had the diagnosis. My family doctor wanted to do the surgery to have the melanoma removed from my elbow, and she wanted to do, I think she told me on a Thursday, and she wanted to do it on Monday morning, and I was not even going to be in the province. I was away on a business trip, and I just kind of said, no, can we just put the brakes on for a minute here? And I called the dermatologist. And he called me back later that evening, and I told him the diagnosis, and I said that my family doctor wanted me to do the surgery on Monday morning, but I was going to be in Ottawa, and what are his thoughts on that? And do I really need to do it on Monday, or do I have a little bit of time here? And he said, that's a big surgery. You need that done by a plastic surgeon. You shouldn't have that done by your family doctor. And so I was really grateful that I listened to my instinct and I asked for a second opinion instead of just rushing into what was being told to me. And so I want you to know that you can do that too. And it doesn't mean that you do nothing for 6 months. I didn't do nothing for 6 months. I had the actual pathology back from that biopsy on February 1st, and my surgery was March 26th. So I wasn't stuffing around doing nothing, just wasting time. I was taking it very seriously. I was just following my own path at my own time, rather than being rushed into a process that didn't feel right to me. Your intuition will never lead you astray. And if you don't have your own network of healers around you like I do because you don't work in health and wellness, that's okay. Feel free to reach out to me because I can connect you with all of the people that I have in my world. And I thoroughly enjoy connecting people in need with the people who can help them move forward on their healing journey. And if it isn't me, then whoever I'm connecting to, because I have so many people. I needed more than just myself on my journey, and you will too. And I'm happy to help you find the people that you need that can support you and guide you and have the tools to help you with your healing. And if you don't have any healing issues right now as you're listening to this, kudos to you. That's awesome. I love the fact that you're looking after your health and that you are healthy right now. Know this information for when you need it. In fact, start building your network of people around you now so that you have it for if and when you need it. And if you know anybody else that is dealing with a health issue right now that could benefit from additional support, that is looking at holistic ways to heal, feel free to share this episode with them and have them reach out to me, and I am happy to connect them with people that can help guide them on their healing journey. So thank you for letting me share my story here. I feel it's really important for people to know, because in that moment of getting a diagnosis, the fear will jump in. However, if you know one person who's healed, or you are able to go to resources that can support you to step out of the fear state and get into how is this happening for me and what action steps can I take to move me forward, and know that your body is designed to heal. We just need to bring it into balance so that it can do so. And if you are in that place of hope, if you're in that mindset of, I can do this, you are going to get through. Because remember, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so I chose to think I can. And I hope that you will too. Have you experienced trauma in your life that is preventing you from finding peace and calm in your head, in your life? And you don't want to deal with it because the thought of having to talk about it is traumatic in and of itself. Well, if that's you, you'll want to know about my upcoming workshop called Did You Know You Can Heal from Your Trauma Without Having to Actually Talk About It? Yes, that's right. There are tools and techniques that we have that allow you to release the trauma without having to relive it by talking about it. And if you'd like to know more about that to help you heal from your trauma, and the reason you're struggling with the trauma is because your unconscious mind knows that you are now in a safe place to be able to address it, and you're just looking for the right tools to address it and help you move through it, then sign up for this workshop so that you can learn the next steps to achieving peace with ease and grace and gentleness. Simply look in the show notes for the link to register for this free workshop. And I look forward to seeing you there.